track. All on the boards right now.
Peace and much love. This is your brother Counterculture, and we riding the ninth wave.
Where you gonna get it like this? Where you gonna get it like this?
Welcome back, everyone. It is day 27 of the ninth wave. It is the 25th of July, 2017, and we are deep down into the depths of the Valley of the Shadows. The midnight threshold is upon us. Between today and tomorrow, we will cross from the descending frequencies into the ascending frequencies. We are on stage 2 of the hero's journey, the call to adventure, and the sun has moved into the 31st gate, empowering the gene key of humility, leadership, and arrogance. Day 27 is a particular day because it is the very depths of the Valley of the Shadows. When we look at the ninth wave, there's a beginning point in which the energies are ascending until they reach a peak, and then it starts to descend. That peak in ascension is what I call midday. And once we reach midday, we cross the midday threshold. And what happens is between day 9 and day 10, there is that crossing of the threshold. From day 10, the energies begin to switch. The frequencies begin to switch, and there's a subtle lowering of the energies. So then afterwards, there are 18 days, even though you're still in the even though you're still in the realm of the light entities, even though we're still up in the higher frequencies. From day 10 all the way down to day 27, there is a gradual lowering of the frequencies. What happens tomorrow after the crossing of the midnight threshold is that there's a switch, a subtle switch in which the energies subtly begin to switch directions, and we're pointing up towards the light. And then there are 18 days in which we travel up out of the darkness and into the light energies. So it's a particular day, and as I mentioned before, 2 + 7 = 9. This is a day of completion. This is a day of breaking down the old. And this is why along the hero's journey, it is the call to adventure. Now, as I mentioned before, that word adventure can be a little bit tricky because we like to associate fun and we'd like to associate good times with adventure. But really, what it should be called is probably not the call to adventure, but rather the wake-up call. Because this is the point in which the hero along his journey is being shaken from his normal life, and is being called to open his eyes to something new, something different, or something even catastrophic. And so now is the time for the call to adventure to begin, because from tomorrow onwards, the energies will begin to gradually raise day by day, and we will move towards that peak. And as we move towards that peak, those energies will get higher and higher, and then we will find our real challenges along this ninth wave. So because today is the call to adventure, I would like to share with you again from The Writer's Journey by Christopher Vogler, just a little piece about the call to adventure. Stage 2, the call to adventure. The hero is presented with a problem, challenge, or adventure to undertake. Once presented with a call to adventure, she can no longer remain indefinitely in the comfort of the ordinary world. Perhaps the land is dying, as in the King Arthur stories of the search for the Grail, the only treasure that can heal the wounded land. In Star Wars, the call to adventure is Princess Leia's desperate holographic message to wise old Obi-Wan Kenobi, who asks Luke to join in the quest. Leia has been snatched by evil Darth Vader, like the Greek springtime goddess Persephone, who was kidnapped to the underworld by Pluto, Lord of the Dead. Her rescue is vital to restoring the normal balance of the universe. In many detective stories, the call to adventure is the private eye being asked to take on a new case and solve a crime which has upset the order of things. A good detective should right wrongs as well as solve crimes. In revenge plots, The call to adventure is often a wrong which must be set right, an offense against the natural order of things. In the Count of Monte Cristo, Edmond Dantes is unjustly imprisoned and is driven to escape by his desire for revenge. The plot of Beverly Hills Cop is set in motion by the murder of the hero's best friend. In First Blood, Rambo is motivated by his unfair treatment at the hands of an intolerant sheriff. In romantic comedies, the call to adventure might be the first encounter with the special but annoying someone the hero or heroine will be pursuing and sparring with. The call to adventure establishes the stakes of the game and makes clear the hero's goal: to win the treasure or the lover, to get revenge or right a wrong, to achieve a dream, confront a challenge, or change a life. What's at stake can often be expressed as a question posed by the call. Will E.T. or Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz get home again? Will Luke rescue Princess Leia and defeat Darth Vader? In An Officer and a Gentleman, will the hero be driven out of Navy flight school by his own selfishness and the needling of a fierce Marine drill instructor, or will he earn the right to be called an officer and a gentleman? Boy meets girl, but does boy get girl? There it is. That is the second stage of the hero's journey, the call to adventure. And for me, the call has been what I mentioned previously, to look at this ninth wave in a different way, not in the way that the challenge comes from the depths of the darkness of the valley of the shadows of these low frequencies, because as I have mentioned many times, these low frequencies we are used to. It is the high frequencies that we are not used to. So now as I begin this journey up the ninth wave again, I'm more mindful that what I have in front of me is the challenge of moving ever more closely to unity consciousness and putting aside, making peace with those shadows that divide us, that cause division within humanity and move us away from that unity consciousness. So in saying that, because the sun is now in the 31st gate, we are in the valley of the shadows. I want to share with you from Richard Rudd's book, Gene Keys. I want to share with you the shadow of arrogance, because it's very plain, it's very obvious that when we look in the world today, there is a whole lot of arrogance going on. And out of arrogance comes the gift of leadership. And out of leadership comes the divine essence, or what I like to call the light entity of humility. And we have too much leadership with arrogance in the world today, rather than leadership with humility. So I'm going to share with you this shadow, and hopefully in these days, as the sun is shining through the 31st gate for the next several days, be mindful of the people around you, what's going on in the world, and notice how the strength of arrogance is being manifested, and let us pray for humility in the leadership that we have in the world, or in the leadership that we want to present to the world. The 31st shadow, arrogance, the world wide web of words. The 31st shadow and its various frequency bands really turn some fundamental human concepts upside down. You may note that these bands track all human evolution in its move from a state of arrogance to a state of humility. The chances are that you, like the rest of humanity, have been conditioned to think of arrogance and humility in a certain way. The general conditioning says that arrogance is a negative trait and that humility is a positive trait. Since the 31st gift directly concerns leadership and influence, we are going to have to explore the real definitions of these two words, because the 31st gift of leadership sits like the fulcrum of a seesaw between the two of them. As one side of a binary genetic codon ring known as the ring of no return, the 31st gene key is chemically bonded to the 62nd gene key. They both code for an amino acid in the body known as tyrosine. This genetic coupling is very interesting when we explore it a little further. The 62nd shadow is the shadow of intellect and concerns the mental skill of manipulating language in order to try to understand our environment. In effect, This shadow encases you inside a world of language and words from an early age, projecting a mental neurolinguistic map onto reality as you perceive it. It is because of the 60-second shadow that when you look at a tree, the word tree unconsciously forms in your mind. The 31st shadow extends this cognitive ability beyond the simple creation of a neurological map of reality. It uses this skill in order to control and manipulate others. The nice word we have for this is leadership. Because of the chemical bridge between these two shadows, humanity comes pre-programmed to follow those who can best manipulate language, facts, and words. In terms of leadership, we human beings operate very differently from animals. Animals choose their leaders instinctively based upon one animal having an alpha gene, which marks it as the leader. In humans, the alpha gene is present in one who can best manipulate others through language. Such people may or may not have a strong moralistic character. That is immaterial. What is important here is that language is the medium through which human leadership is manifested. Furthermore, because language is the means through which frequency can be conveyed, at higher levels of frequency it can never lie. However, at the shadow frequency, language is the ultimate programming tool and can be used, for example, to blind an entire race of people to the truth, thereby locking them at a certain level of frequency. If we extend this concept of language as a programming tool even wider, we might say it is language that controls us rather than we who control it. There is a big difference between leadership and authority. Authority, the gift of the 21st gene key, is based upon the control of power through strength of will. These are people who do not lead through words, but whose sheer presence controls the will of others. In the case of the 31st shadow, words can have a far deeper effect than presence, since words endure forever. Concepts spoken thousands of years ago can still influence the whole inner reality of entire nations and peoples. We see this most clearly through the great religions. It is incredible to contemplate how even a single misplaced or translated word spoken by a particular person can lead to the deaths of millions of people over thousands of years. This is the power of the 31st shadow at work. Why then is the 31st shadow called the shadow of arrogance if it is language that really controls humans rather than the other way around? The reason is that the collective shadow frequency itself is arrogant. Human arrogance is rooted in the belief that we have any independent control over reality at all. We shall see when we come to the gift frequency that the real leaders among human beings are those who understand how deeply programmed and limited we are by our own intellect. At the shadow frequency, human beings are completely convinced by the mass programming of the society in which they live and its collective history, beliefs, and culture. It is always the frequency that creates the language patterns rather than the other way around. Our arrogance is based upon our belief that we can think, talk, or act our way out of the shadow frequencies, when in fact those very frequencies are created through our intellect. The real arrogance comes from being cut off from our divine source. Words that are not rooted in a profound sense of wonder are always at some level arrogant. Only the human heart can truly offer an answer to the mystery of existence, and unless your words carry the perfume of love somewhere behind them, they are still waiting around in the shadow frequency. At the shadow frequency, humans think, speak, and act as if they were separate from nature, rather than being an organ of it. Nature controls human beings. Nature has evolved our intellect, and nature has ensnared us in our false mental reality because that is where nature wants us to be at our current stage of evolution. Nature has even made us arrogant in believing that we have some control over nature. These truths may well seem difficult to us human beings with our deep mental investment in individual freedom. As we shall see, true humility has no basis whatsoever in behavior, but in understanding. You can only ever be free when you have escaped language. when you are no longer a victim of your own mental constructs and words. When the heart finally begins to speak, it organizes the words without you having to think about their meaning. The high frequency of the heart is what conveys the true meaning. The ring of no return describes a state of consciousness that lies far beyond words, even though it may use words as a means of vibrational communication. Arrogance is then a kind of addiction to words and language, rather than the frequency of the intention that hides between and behind the words. The modern world we see around us is nothing more than a mental construct created out of billions and billions of words. At the shadow frequency, we are trapped in this worldwide web of words. Matter itself may well feel solid to our touch, but we now know it to be ephemeral. The news headlines may seem to be deeply important, but even they are simply the working out of an evolutionary scheme of which humanity is but one small component. The 31st shadow therefore has drawn human beings so deeply into their own illusion, or Maya, that we cannot see how little influence we really have. Our new obsession with the environment and with trying to slow down our inexorable progress may well turn out to be unfounded. Our arrogance persists in assuming that we are affecting our environment instead of seeing that there is no distinction between the environment and us. Perhaps the environment needs us to mutate it so that it can mutate us. Perhaps nature is forcing us in the direction we are going because she has an idea that we have not yet glimpsed. Whenever a human being speaks without understanding the false mental fabrication in which they live, they speak from the 31st shadow. The Maya is only interested in strengthening itself through our thoughts and words. Rare indeed are words which come from a person who understands how false words themselves are. The programming partner of the 31st shadow is the 41st shadow of fantasy, and perhaps that is the word that really says it all. All words, opinions, and thoughts with which you identify are agents of the great illusion of your separate existence. Repressive nature, deferring. There are essentially two forms of arrogance, and the repressive form manifests as false humility. These are people who defer their power to others, thus deliberately setting themselves below them. These are really people who care deeply what others think of them and more than anything fear to be thought of as arrogant. Ironically, such behavior is designed to draw attention even though it claims the opposite to be the case. In many ways, these people are even more arrogant than people with the reactive nature. Humility is seen by society as a highly prized and noble accolade, but this kind of false humility hides nothing more than fear. Reactive nature, scornful. The reactive side to arrogance is based on anger rather than fear and emerges as a kind of haughty scorn. The more traditional brand of arrogance assumes itself to be above others because it sees how easily they are conditioned and can therefore be manipulated. What such people miss is how deeply they themselves are caught up in the same conditioning, since they have a deep-seated need for recognition. Unfortunately, no amount of recognition can ever feel good when it comes from those whom you take to be inferior. So these people remain scornful of the very people they influence. This, in turn, makes them even more angry and disrespectful of human beings. There it is. So there we are along the ninth wave. I hope that you have enjoyed this little study session with me. Keep yourself positive, keep yourself mindful of the shadow frequencies, and get yourself ready for this climb that we are going to take. We're going to take starting tomorrow, lasting 18 days, way up there into the higher frequencies. And as we go along, I will do my best to continue to share more insights and to continue to journey with you. So until the next time, this is your brother Counterculture saying peace and much love.
If you don't like what you singing, you sing a different hook. If you don't like what you cooking, you get a different cook. If you don't like what you wearing, you get a different look. You wanna escape Armageddon? Read a different book. When knowledge is right there, we don't even look. December 2012 got this whole world shook. But look, the last days for others are the first days for us. The question to ask is who can you trust? Respect to all that 2012 stuff. But when you really study it as fear, it don't apply to us. Yo, Hollywood lies to us all day. The question is, what does your culture say? Where's your culture at? Who's your prophet? What history guides your spiritual logic? It starts with a story, then it's hypnotic. Then any myth that comes along, you just adopt it. And why? Because your culture, you forgot it. December 2012, let's continue this topic. Turn the page. The present world age began 3114 BC. According to the Mayan calendar, this age concludes December 21st, 2012 AD. This 5,125-year cycle of time is one world age. Nothing changes overnight. It's all a process, a transition. It happens over many days. In the Mayan calculation, a kin is 1 day. The Mayan all, that's 20 days. The tune is 360 days. The cartoon is 7,200 days. The buck tune is 144,000 days. And they applied that to the Milky Way. In the cycles they saw the sun moving across the Milky Way's equator, lining up with other galactic neighbors. We've been shifting for 30 years, it seems, from 1980 to about 2016. The shift is now, it's occurring now. But if you're learning from the movies, you won't know how to survive or stay alive after the storm. Cause after that, a new world order is born. Oh, you don't know, man, about they programs? You still watching Lindsay? You don't see that low hand? Let's go, man, the flood is coming. Don't be scared, get prepared, keep your motor running. Rock with me. Higher level. Higher level. Higher level. Higher level. Higher level. Higher level. Yep, it's all mass control. Here's the philosophy. Cortez knew about the Aztec prophecy. Before he invaded their society, he studied their cultural psychology. He knew they had armor, guns, and speed, so he arrived in the Aztec year of Juan Reed. That's the year Quetzalcoatl was prophesied to return from exile. In fact, Cortez played out the Aztec myth and took away those people's will to resist. Cortez played on religious beliefs and blinded the Aztecs cause he was a thief. Look, the Yucatan, that's a Mayan book of cycles. It lets the Mayans know when the gods are gonna strike you. In fact, every 13 cartoons you see, the Mayans are visited with a catastrophe. So every 200 or 56 or 7 years, the Mayan people live with this fear. So on the island of Tayasor, now Flores, the Spanish came on with this knowledge. They knew, according to the Mayan heavens, that the next cycle was 1697. So as the Mayans stood there fixed on the heavens, the Spanish showed up with all of their weapons. March 13th, 1697, the Mayan people learned a terrible lesson. Your fears and tears are used against you, cause 80% of world control is mental. But back to the Mayans, they're getting some more. 257 years after Tayasor, the US backed coup overthrows their democracy in 1954. That's exactly 257 years from when the Spaniards arrived at their shores. I'm getting to the core of the lesson. Let's see what happens in 2211. That's the next cycle the people remember. Like 2012 to 21st of December. Your consciousness may shift, you may turn the light, but you are the universe, you're gonna be alright. The pole may shift, your soul may lift a higher consciousness, but you know all this. The edutainment style will persist. Forget the fear, it's knowledge that runs all this. Higher level. Higher level. Mad Lion, we going up. Yo, give him that track. Mad Lions all on the track. Rock that shit. Rock that. Rocking them drums. Do your thing.